believe in God.
Every description of God that I've heard holds God to be all-powerful, very typical, and all good. And I see earthquakes and tornadoes and disease, childhood leukemia, and I see all of this and I say, I do not see evidence of both of those being true simultaneously. If there is a God, the God is either not all-powerful or not all good.
Yeah, there he is, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Every time I hear that, I kind of hear something different and want to dig deeper into it because I know it's a fairly controversial thing that he says. What is controversial and shocking is that we're here. We're actually doing the podcast for all of you wonderful people who have been checking in every week and finding out that we're not actually on. It is very much a hit and miss things these days, but we do apologise if it's put you out at all, but it's great to have your company. It's just myself, Rowie and Luke tonight talking about interesting stuff. G'day, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Yourself?
Not too shabby, mate. Not too shabby at all. Good to be back on doing the podcast. It's hard to squeeze it in with everything that we've got going on in our very busy lives, but it feels good when we do it.
It does, mate. I'm wrapped to be here. Can you hear? There's a bit of a delay there when I'm speaking. Can you hear that?
I can't. Let me just change on my audio. I took it off. Cancellation.
Bit like an echo.
Is that better?
Let's see. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's better. Much better.
Yeah. Cool.
But no, it's good, mate. I'm wrapped to be here. But before, when you said it was just myself and you didn't realise that Chenks has been waiting for us. He's already on there.
Oh, is he? I haven't opened up my.
So it really is three of us at least.
Where are we? Oh, God love him. He's just. I got a funny feeling. I'm very concerned about Cenk. I think there's a strange thing going on. I think he's actually on there whether we're here or not, like 24/7. I don't know what you're looking for, mate. I'm not sure we can help you out, but it's always great to have you.
He's just got good taste, Cenk. That's what it is. Yeah, I think so. I think he probably thinks that, these guys are just a couple of weirdos from a little place, one of the most isolated cities in the world, and what would they know? But howdy, friends. Been a minute, it has, mate. Never clicked faster on a live stream notification. So how do you actually, you obviously don't check in on YouTube every Wednesday at around this time, but you obviously have a notification set up which tells you that we're either on or we're not. Okay. Channels. So if it starts, it'll pop up on your phone.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Well, either way, mate, it's always fantastic to have you on board. I think you've set the record, 3 comments in, we're only at 20 past 8. And that is amazing. That is amazing. So we're going to talk about something interesting that it came up, and I want to just read this out, the little bit that I've got, and ask the question: how do Christians justify believing that their God is the true one, and what happens when the belief collides with a lifetime of waiting for proof that never arrives? In this episode, we're going to wrestle with questions of certainty, hope, and a legacy of faith. Is belief still worth passing on to our children if we never get answers ourselves? And what does it mean to wait for something that might never come? So join in, be a part of it. It's going to be an honest conversation about the truth claims, parenting, and the possibility or impossibility of ever really knowing. G'day and welcome to this episode of An Atheist, a Believer, and a Pastor Walk Into a Bar. I'm your host, Peter Rowe. Thanks for your company on this Wednesday night, the 21st of May, 2025, Australian Western Standard Time. It is, it's gone 8 o'clock now. It's about 8:20 our time. So that's basically the gist of what we're going to talk about. Luke, just from the top before we get into the nitty-gritty, what do you think about the subject matter? Because when we talk about things like this, it is Those people who perhaps haven't joined us before, I'm a non-believer. I'm a reformed, if you like, for want of another word, Christian of some 25 years. Luke has been a Christian for a while and been a pastor as well. He is the pastor in the title of an atheist, a believer, and a pastor walking to the bar. We have the trifecta at the moment, which is terrific. So for those people listening, when I present a question, I set up this podcast to get some answers, because not in an aggressive, nasty way, but just to find out and dig deeper, which we've managed to do over the last year, and come up with some great ideas and great conversations and ideas with people like Cenk and other people who have joined in. And we invite you to do that, to jump in that little window to the right of your YouTube screen and just be a part of it. What do you think about waiting with the possibility of never finding out your belief is in fact correct, understanding that, of course, that it is based upon faith. To date, I don't know anyone who's actually heard God or God speaking about who he is and what he is, and making it so that we don't have to guess and we don't need faith, that we have evidence instead of claim. So that's where we're at. Luke, what do you think about this idea?
It's a really good topic. It's a really good topic because faith is such a broad term. Yeah. And when we talk about people, everyone has, and I'm not even talking about you can be Christian or you can be Muslim or you can be Hindu. I'm not even talking about faith from a religion perspective, but the expression of faith and what faith means to people within Christianity, within Islam, or in the entire realm, I guess, of religious faith. It means something different to everyone. And I think there's this sense of proof, this sense of certainty, this sense of what I believe is right. People are going to have different comfort levels in terms of what that means. And it's interesting, actually, because the question, the way that it's framed, saying, what if what we're waiting for never arrives? But for me, I think, well, I don't know if that's what I'm waiting for, in terms of proof. Which is a different thing to if something was to arrive, some sort of information that absolutely refuted and discredited everything, which I can't even fathom what that could possibly be. But that's a different thing. But rather than the idea of waiting for something to validate that what I believe is correct, I don't know if I personally am waiting for that. But there very well could be. I mean, there's whole realms within Christianity of apologetics and different methods for people to try to argue to other people and even to themselves, I would imagine, that this is why what I believe is correct, and this is why I can have certainty because of this. Some of it makes sense. A lot of it's just, you're stretching things to try to confirm stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. I think it's a really good conversation to have. I know this is sort of just the intro, and it'd be good for us to kind of get into some specifics and bounce off each other with different questions. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a worthwhile discussion.
I was very much like you, Luke. I was never of the mindset that this could be wrong or I need to find out. And certainly for 20, probably, I don't know, out of the 25 years, I don't know, felt like maybe 24, I was 100% convinced. No one could convince me of anything. I was set. I knew the truth. I had lots of interesting discussions with people, but at the end of the day, for me now, it's in opposites, because for me, I wasn't waiting to know. I knew. I already felt like I knew, so I wasn't actually waiting for anything. I wasn't waiting for confirmation. I didn't accept that there would have to be some degree of empirical evidence in order for me to be convinced that what I believed in was true. I knew that I knew that I knew. And the power of belief and belief in belief is extremely strong. And I think that's the fulcrum point of any belief system, is that you have to have an incredible belief in your belief. You have a desire to believe that what you believe is true and it's real and it's unquestionable, and it just doesn't happen. That's what it was like for me. Then it just, as you know, as my story goes, it just disappeared. I wasn't looking for it to disappear. I wasn't looking for anything. It just, I guess my questionable mind and my brain, and whether it's anything to do with age as you get older, I don't know. It is a lot easier to believe in God and the afterlife when you're young, as everything is easy to believe when you're young, because you feel like you're going to live forever. You don't feel like the end is in sight because you're young and you don't think about it. When you get to my age, then suddenly it goes through your head, hang on a minute, what if this isn't real? What if I'm wrong about this? What if? And you start questioning. At least I would hope that everyone would start questioning. It would sadden me deeply to think that people would go to their grave without ever really knowing and just relying totally on faith in order to be comfortable about death. So for me, I just started realizing that there were many questions, there were many things that I was doing on a daily basis which never materialized, like prayer. Prayer was something coming from a Pentecostal background. Prayer was just so in your face and such a part of it. We spent most of our time praying. Prayer nights, prayer weekends, prayer this, prayer that. It was all about praying. And I got to realize, hang on a minute, going back and analyzing, if it was a car that I was building and 9 times out of 10 it would blow up, I'd start questioning, going, hang on a minute, let's not just keep doing the same thing and get the same results, because repeating yourself and expecting a different result, as we know, is a literal definition of insanity. Yeah. So as a thinking, and I'm not suggesting other people aren't thinking, but for me as a person who would think deeply about what was going on, started asking those questions and going, hang on a minute, we've been praying for anyone and everyone for all sorts of things. And yet every single person we've ever had prayer vigils and whole nights and weekends and that, they all just died like everyone else did. So my choice was, then I can just ignore that and pretend it's not real and continue on with my faith in spite of the fact that everything that we'd prayed for and everything that I'd hoped for and everything I thought about never actually happened. Or I could actually face it, which was a test of bravery, to be able to stand and go, you know what, I'm gonna question this. Well, because we're taught don't ever question God, in the sense that don't tempt him, don't put yourself out there, be totally fearful of this being that you've never met, you've only ever heard about. You've decided to believe it's true because it makes you feel good and it makes you feel secure and powerful and all of those things. But I started asking questions, and the people that were, in the church, the pastors couldn't answer any of my questions because the questions were too blunt. I wanted evidence. I wanted proof. I wanted you to convince me as why I should continue to believe in something that I can't see as being real. It's not tangible. It just makes no sense to me. All of my life I've been taught about scientific facts and things that you can, have evidence for. This goes against all of that. This doesn't work. It doesn't sit with me. And I started realizing that there was no way of proving what I had the choice: suck it up, use faith, or realize that perhaps it's not real. And it was at that point where that just started happening more and more and more. And I'd go to church and I'd be told to stand up and sit down and raise your hands in the air and all the rest. And I thought, this doesn't feel right. This is people controlling me. And I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm out. I'm not going to go anymore. And I step away and I'm going to look at things and see how they appear outside of that controlled environment. And I suddenly realized that I didn't really feel any different. There was such a high level of entertainment involved in it. So that's when we started having our own little home church, and that was a lot better. But I tried everything to try and get that feeling back of going to different churches, of having our own little home group and all of that. And my wife and I just kept looking at each other going, this is just, it's not there. And Lou would go, no, it's really not. It's just it's all gone. Now, that wasn't a time to celebrate.
No.
It was horrible.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's like, what have I been doing for the last 25 years? What has it brought me? Where am I? What the hell? It was just like, this is just freaking weird. And that's where it was. And then it took ages to actually start listening to atheists and the opposition argument about it to see whether I have done the right thing. And I, Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and Dawkins and all of those famous atheists made me feel like I had made the right decision, and I felt good about that. And so here we are. So I was certainly never, and I understand totally if you say you're not waiting for anything, I totally get that. Absolutely. Waiting for what? You there's nothing you expect to arrive other than perhaps the presence of Jesus manifesting somehow on earth.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, like I got, and I'm on the same page with you with that. With your journey it's a powerful one, and I think one of courage to ask questions, and to leave a community that you weren't, that felt transactional or that felt one way, that you're asking questions, you're trying to wrestle with things, and I'm not saying that the reason you left is because you didn't get the answers that you want, or that no one could answer questions. I know it's much deeper and more layered and nuanced than that, but it takes a lot of courage to do something like that, to go on a faith journey, which it is a faith journey. Even if at the end you end up without a faith, that's part of a faith journey. It doesn't all, not everyone's looks the same. And I think it's an indictment on the church, but also on our understanding of what faith looks like. To like, what do we do when that sort of stuff happens? How do we handle that? And how do we maintain relationships through that? Are we actually friends? Are we actually brothers? Or are we just only connected when we're thinking the same thing? And all that sort of stuff comes up, and it's actually a powerful testimony, for me anyway. It's quite interesting. But when you talk about me, when I said earlier around not waiting for things, it's not because I'm so convinced that what I believe is correct and right that I don't need anything else to kind of validate it. It's because I don't think there is anything else. I just don't. I think the space that we're dealing with when it comes to God, when it comes to faith, transcends everything that I don't know what proof there could be. And I know we could say there's examples of like, prayed for something and then this happened, or if I saw a miracle, or if God descended from the clouds or did I get that sort of stuff. But talking day-to-day things, outside of that, but that doesn't mean that I'm certain about my belief. I think what I believe is correct, but I also have a very, very healthy understanding that the bits that I think I've got right would be minuscule. There'd be plenty that I've got wrong, and there would be so much that I don't even understand, that I can't even fathom. There's this entire mystery of God. Like, the whole idea of God. God is just, the word God is language that we use it's so basic. It's just the best we can do. But
Yeah.
what it's signifying for me, what it's representing, is so much bigger than any one word or any language can actually define. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a like an
Broken
earthquake
leg.
split in the ground. Do you know what I mean? It's just nothing, but it's all we've got. And that's kind of how I feel. So on one hand, that's terrifying because that opens up the possibility that I could be wrong, that what I understand to be true, what I understand to be the character of all of these things, those things I've come to from, carefully thought out process and study and reading different points of view. So it's like I haven't arrived where I'm at just on a whim. It's been wrestling and study and research and journeying, but that doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. I could still be wrong. But so there's a basis behind what I believe, but there's also this very healthy understanding that I'm scratching the surface. And what that allows me to do is to be like, well, I don't have to make this an us and them. It doesn't have to be, well, this is my God and my perception of God is right. So therefore, anyone who's a Muslim, they're 100% wrong. Anyone who's a Hindu, they're 100% wrong. Anyone who's an atheist, they're 100% wrong. I can realize, well, actually, there's wisdom, there's truth, there are things that in all of these things that are beyond what I've seen, that I can understand. And it doesn't mean that everything is true and everything is right, because I mean that's not really how truth works. But it's also not. It also means that I've not cornered the market on truth. I've not figured it all out. In fact, I'm well and truly aware that I haven't. So that allows me to think, well, I don't think I could ever be certain. So that's why I'm not waiting on something to prove something because I don't think it's something that it can be proved. I think the mystery transcends it, and I'm okay with that. Part of my journey has been that I've been okay with that. I've realized that, and I think it makes me a more accepting and understanding person, better with interfaith dialogue. Means I can have these sort of conversations and not feel attacked or defensive or, so for me, I'm like, well, that's a better position to be in, rather than the apologetic side where it's like, well, let me give you 14 scriptures and all of these different things to tell you why you're wrong and I'm right. Well, that's crap. You're not going to get anywhere with that.
But that too is a very brave attitude to have, though, and unfortunately, it's rare. And you've got to try and have discussions with irrational Christians to, even from a Christian perspective, the amount of people that just used to, I just would be I'd be stunned at their incredible judgmental, hate-filled way of trying to tell people that, if you don't speak in tongues, you go into hell, and standing in the Hay Street Mall and screaming at people. It is extraordinary. One of the big differences from and this is why it's as varied within you and I and our experience that I had and that you're having. It's incredibly varied because of who we are, and two is what our expectations were when confronted with the possibility of believing in God. For you, I see it as an incredibly intellectual stimuli, if you like, for the digging into the depths and the wonders and the written word and what it represents to you, almost in the sense that if you ever just discovered one day, okay, wow, I've just discovered that God isn't real. Wow. But you know what? I'd still like to continue on with the reading and the history and all of that stuff, because it's like, anyone who's interested in the history of geology or cosmology or whatever, it's there's no
like
end.
Egyptian hieroglyphics and that. It's like you
Oh,
don't have to believe it, but it's fascinating. And yeah, that's right.
it is absolutely. Whereas for me, it was very much a rescue plan. It was
Yeah.
classic. Life had unraveled, and there was a need. And and one of the things I was talking about, I was thinking about when you were talking about what you were saying just then. What struck me was there was almost a sense of relief and reward when I decided to call it quits. Because the very first time I was aware of Christians, and I had a saying back in the 80s, if there weren't so many Christians, there'd be a lot more Christians, because they were not representative of what seemed to be appealing. They were representative of a bunch of dickheads who you looked at them. I never looked at them and went, gee, I'd like to be like you.
Yeah.
I'm a normal Aussie bloke. I'm a muso, whatever. Why in God's name would I want to sign up for what you have signed up with? Because you are just obnoxious, you're rude, you're irrelevant. All of the things that I hate in human beings, you are it. And you're flying the flag of Christianity and saying that you represent Jesus.
Yeah.
I wasn't a Christian, but I knew that you weren't. You weren't representing God on any level whatsoever that I've ever understood. So I had an understanding of the character of Christ. But when it came to me, it was out of desperation. I needed something because I'd lost everything. I'd lost my wife, I'd lost my son, I'd lost the band that I was in, I lost my future of singing, telling I had a tumor on my vocal cords. I had nothing. But I didn't crawl into a corner and cry. I just took it in my stride. And it's not till much later on to now where I can look back at that person and go, wow, is that really what you were like? Because I'm not like that necessarily now, but back then I can tell the story and people are amazed at going, wow, you were facing all of that. Yeah, that was what was happening. And I needed something, and it just presented itself in a miraculous way, in a way that I'm thinking, even now, I'm thinking, how could this have all happened? This is crazy. What happened to bring this person to me whose father was a pastor and she moved into our house and all of this stuff. This is just crazy. This can't just be. Something had to have happened. And I swear it'll bug me to the day I die, unless actually Jesus comes back and goes, Pete, you were right. It was me all along.
It was me. Yeah.
Yeah, you're guilty. At least I know. But it's so weird in kind of always believing that there was something, and then discovering that something, and then that something goes away. And now here I am still wanting to know what that something is and was it ever real? It's crazy. It is. But when I decided to get out of it, it was like a reward, because when I first walked into church, I went, this is not where I want to be. I don't mind this God thing, but this is full of weirdos holding their hands in the air. That's not who I am. I'm just I'm an Aussie muso bloke. This is crazy. Everyone I know is going to think I'm a complete nutbag because we all make fun of these people. And suddenly I'm there and I'm going, oh, I really don't want to do this. I hated being in church. And then I accepted, as much as I hated it, I thought, this is the deal. This is it. If you're a Christian and you're in this church, they're all the same, I thought then. And this is this is it. This is what you're going to have to accept. And I went, okay, all right, let's go. Let's do this. And it just took so long going along on the ride, and all of the amazing people I met and the things that happened along the way. And I wouldn't not do it again. I would have to do it again, because otherwise I wouldn't be who I am now, and representative of someone who had incredible faith that was unshakable and stuff. But when it all got out, I thought, oh, this feels so much more comfortable. I'm back to who I was, and I don't have to think about all this bullshit. It's not real.
Yeah.
It was just my imagination. I needed it. I created the need. I created the fulfillment of the need, and now that I'm out of it, I understand that it was my creative creation, because it's gone and I can't bring it back. No matter how hard I try, I can't make it real. It's gone. So for me, it's very cathartic, this kind of discussion about stuff like this, because it tries to help me to understand just exactly what's going on. But contrary to that, it's also confused the living daylights out of me and not helped, not helped in the slightest, going, this is mental. When you've got an entire world full of billions of people who all feel connected, and you think that's amazing, but then you realize that they're all either all right or they're all wrong, because they're all claiming that their God is the right God. And that's the biggest issue for me now, is that the convenience of the argument supporting the geographical issues that we've talked about before, and you just happen to be born in Australia and happens to be a country that does this, and same for America if you were born in India or Pakistan or whatever, blah blah blah. So it's helpful on so many levels, but more confusing on others. And I think that's just, I just accept that that's what it is.
It's interesting because it's like one thing I've learned, and I can only speak from my own journey, is like where I'm at now is so different to how I felt when I first became a Christian as well. Because there is a certain intoxication. There is a certain there's something that happens because communities like that, it's unusual. It's different to kind of a sports club. I mean, there's a community when you're part of a footy team or something and all that stuff. But there's something pretty unique about a church community. It's very intense. It's very close. It's very full on. It's overly friendly. There's it's unusual. It's unlike when you walk into it. And I became a Christian as an adult. So similar sort of situation in the sense that I wasn't kind of raised. It wasn't, this is all I know. You know what I mean? I walked into it and I was like, what is this? This it was a lot. But there was that intoxication. And I remember the hunger and the I guess enthusiasm and energy that I had when I first became a Christian is very different. I went right into that apologetics path, and I was reading all this stuff, and and look, I've never been an evangelist. I've never been one of those guys at the bus stop that's trying to lie. It's just never really been my deal. For I guess the first half of my journey, I thought I should be doing that, but I was just too scared to, because it's just so against how I'm wired. And then for the second half of the journey, I realized, I actually don't need to be doing that. So it didn't bother me. But where I'm at now it feels very different. The enthusiasm is the wrong word. I'm still enthusiastic, but that energy, that intoxication, that it's settled. It's evolved. It's grown. I guess matured is probably another word. For me. And each time that's happened, I've had to kind of reconcile that, going, okay, so what's happening now? Has God left me? Is this not real? Was this an emotional thing? Do I believe anymore? Do I not? And I've been through these sort of these iterations, and and we've spoken many times about there's a lot of the time we ask the same questions, we go down different paths. It's not to say that my path is right and your path is wrong. I just don't even think in those terms anymore.
No,
they're just different paths, which is why that dichotomy of right and wrong, I think, is one of the worst things that society, religion in particular, but society in general, has a is schema that we operate in. It's just not helpful, and it's not accurate. It's just not how the world works. In mathematics, it works like that. 2 plus 2 does not equal maybe 5, maybe 3, depending. Like, it equals 4. So there is a right and a wrong answer, but the life doesn't work like that. And And I had times in my faith when it was like that, where I was like, absolutely, if you're a Hindu, everything you believe is wrong. Like there's nothing in common with this, or if you're a Muslim, everything you believe is wrong. It might be the same sort of old Abrahamic type religion, but that's where it ends. And I would have all the differences. Even at one point, I had, if you're a Catholic, here's all the reasons why you're wrong. Yeah, you believe in God, you believe in Jesus, but my goodness, you pray to Mary, you do all this sort of stuff. And it's like your world just becomes so small. And it's not just like, it's not just Protestantism, then it becomes Pentecostalism, and then it becomes ACC, and then it becomes this part of ACC, and then it becomes your campus. And it's like, really? We're the 150 people out of several billion that figured it out. Like we're the ones that have it all, and no one else has it right. And you just realize how absurd that becomes. So, for me, it's been really freeing understanding that dichotomy of right and wrong, which can be reworded as us and them, in and out, like saved and unsaved. It just doesn't work. It's wrong, and then I see Jesus and he's breaking down all of those barriers. We're the ones that build those up. That's not a God thing. And that allows me to go, actually, if God exists, which I believe God does, then any truth is God's truth. So if there's a truth and there's truths embedded over here in this religion or in this ancient practice or in this, they're of God. If they're acting in love, that's of God. We don't have to agree on all these different things because God's bigger than that. He's not only just bigger than their religion, he's bigger than my concept of God. He's bigger than my religion, than my Pentecostal, Christian tradition. We get a lot of stuff, I think, right. I think there's plenty of stuff that we probably get wrong. It's freeing because no one can corner the market of God. God transcends all of that as he should. And I use the word he just for convenience. He, she, it, us, divine, is so much bigger than that. Again, we're restricted by language. So yeah, that helps me in, it's like the exclusivity of like, why is the Christian God the right God? And there's reasons why I guess I'm not a Muslim and why I'm not Hindu, even though I have this expanded belief. I do find the story of Jesus compelling. I do find the resurrection, all of this sort of stuff. There are reasons, but again, that doesn't mean that I think that's right. This is just a story that I find compelling to put language around God that I think is so much bigger than any of us could even comprehend.
We'll come back to the question I'd like to ask is that, do you think that that's reasonable for you to assume that, because you said that you Jesus seems to be the way that fits with you, whereas you have to admit that if you were born in a Muslim country, you would have said the same thing about Allah. You would have said all of the same. And I think that that's the problem that the world is in now, is that because God has never actually told us how we should be doing this, that gives everyone the ability and the freedom and the imagination to create whatever God they want to create. And Scientology, how did anyone ever get L. Ron Hubbard to and write a book and I believe in this shit? That is just completely mental. And with John Travolta and Tom Cruise being two of the big voices of Scientology, I've never actually heard them asked, do you actually believe in the stories? And Jehovah's Witnesses and without going to other religions per se, but talk about the cults that people have bought into. It's just like this is the issue, and why there'll be people like us sitting around for 100 million years talking about this stuff, because until God ever addresses his people, if he has people and if he is real, that it gives everyone the freedom to be able to create whatever it is that we want, which is why there are so many wars and so much conflict and so many arguments within. Forget about Christians and non-Christians. Forget about it. You want to see the best arguments, get a couple of Christians together and hear them go. It is mental. It's unhinged. It is completely troppo, and it's not till you sit back and go, well, of course, as long as people continue to say that Jesus, I believe in Jesus, Jesus is Lord, blah, 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 blah. And then, which in a way is saying that none of you actually have got Jesus. I've got Jesus. Jesus is the man. Jesus is my sole reason for existence. All of the rest of you, whilst I accept you and tolerate your beliefs and whatever, I know you can't be right because I've got Jesus. Now, you don't have Jesus. You might have other people. You might have Muhammad. You might have other amazing historical figures that are incredible, but Jesus is the deal. And if you don't have Jesus, well, then I can't see how we possibly can see eye to eye on that. But anyway, let's Cenk, I thought he'd gone. I thought he just made a couple of quick comments and then disappeared and thought these guys are boring. As boring as batshit, but he's just been listening, so I appreciate that. Rowie, do you still consider yourself to be a cultural Christian, like the holidays, love the church, architecture, etc.? And then there's a question for you, Luke. Did you ever go through an atheist phase in your faith journey? Just please clarify what you mean by a cultural Christian, because that may be a term that you're familiar with, because there may have been a time in your life where you experienced, like you felt like you were a cultural Christian. For me, I need you to be more specific about what you mean by, do I consider myself to be a cultural Christian? My short answer is, without knowing exactly what it is that you're referring to, is I don't on the surface accept or consider myself to be a Christian of any sort. Having said that, no, I'll wait for you to clarify, because it may be true. I may consider myself to be that. I need to just for you to clarify what you exactly mean by a cultural Christian. So we'll have a look at Luke's question. And for anyone else out there, if you've tuned into this particular podcast, an atheist, a believer, and a pastor walk into a bar, please join in. If you've got a comment, where you're at. Are you a new Christian? Are you an old Christian? Are you an atheist or whatever? We don't judge people. We just want to discuss issues like this, because it's absolutely fascinating. It is probably one of the most complex issues that you can even talk about as a human being from a spiritual perspective, even without necessarily being a believer in spirituality at all. But it's complex and it all ties together. So, Luke, did you ever go through an atheist phase in your faith journey? My answer to that, I guess, would have to be yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes and no. I mean, it depends on what we mean. Atheists, in terms of completely, there's like, atheists, as in I don't believe that God exists. Then no, I haven't. I haven't made that decision and sort of had that even before becoming a Christian. I guess I'd best be described as an agnostic. It was like this sense of there's something. I don't know what that is. Certainly didn't think it was church. Christianity. But so I was kind of blindsided when I stumbled into that, and that sort of became my worldview. But so that's the no part. Like, I've never gone, Rowie, for example. I've never hit that made that decision and kind of had that as a phase at all. But the yes part of that is all the time. The doubt, the questioning. Yeah, that's a regular part, and I think that's a healthy part of my faith. In terms of, I think the second you take the option off the table that maybe God doesn't exist, I mean, some might call that robust faith. I've got so much faith that I could never even contemplate that. I think we're just kidding ourselves because it's just lurking in the back of everyone's minds, and that's okay. I've reconciled that to go, well, actually, this is healthy because whilst that's on the table always, that means that it's still an option. If I ever reached a point where I would say, you know what, I don't think, that my reasoning, my rationale means that I don't think this is right, then I could do that. But that doesn't mean that I have any less faith. It just means that I think it just means that there's a healthy.
That's the word
Yeah.
I just wrote down, healthy.
Yeah, it's like I'm choosing this, not choosing to be deceived or choosing to want, because sometimes it's much harder on that side than, for me anyway, than it would be on the other. But it's like I'm still compelled by this story. I still believe it. I still feel it. And even when I wrestle in those moments, I'm always okay. But I've never actually gone there. I've never actually ticked over into that. Sometimes I couldn't even explain that, because there's been many seasons where I've gone, I don't want to pray. I'm not praying. I don't feel like I'm hearing from God. I don't even know if this thing is real. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but yet there's also been many seasons where I've there's been nothing that's more real in my life.
Of course, yeah. Look, and that's the same for me, Luke. That's pretty much. I think that it is healthy. It's healthy to ask questions. It's healthy to doubt. If people are scared that God's going to be angry because they're asking questions or in doubt, that's folly. Because if God can't handle questions, He created us to be inquisitive
100%.
and to have doubt and all of that stuff. So you're not doing anything that you're going to get punished for, because if your faith is that shakable that it could leave you in a place where you don't believe anymore, then what's it based upon in the first place? And certainly for me, when I decided to get out of the church, the word atheist didn't even exist for me, nor has it been an overly popular word, apart from the last 10 years. It's gone through the roof because of social media and because the world is so small now. Suddenly you hear about Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and Sam Harris and Daniel Dennett and all of these amazing atheists, and suddenly they've got a voice and they're speaking out and they become superheroes almost among the non-believers. And I rarely, if ever, in answer to your question too, Cenk, I don't use the word atheist. To me, it's creating a label for something that you're not, which just seems quite bizarre. There's no word for someone who doesn't believe in Santa or leprechauns or whatever. So the word doesn't. I'm not a theist, so I'm an atheist, in a literal sense. But I'm just not convinced until I have evidence. And you can call it whatever you like. It's somewhere between an atheist and an agnostic. I can't claim that there is no God. I, in fact, can claim that I hope there is.
Yeah.
I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that there is a God. I hope that the whole idea about the whole thing is wonderful. And I'm not going to buy into the God that people have told, written in the Bible, who God is, because until God tells everyone, going, hang on a minute, that Old Testament stuff, that was written by a whole bunch of sexist, chauvinistic, unintelligent men who wanted the world to be like this, and they didn't have a problem with all of this stuff, and so they wrote it down, and then everyone's saying, look at this is God, and God's up there going, I didn't say that. I didn't write that stuff.
Yeah.
I wrote as much in the Bible as women did. So just leave me out of this and whatever. It's just this crazy, bizarre world of arguing against someone who they've never even heard claimed anything. You can't even say everything in the Bible is what God has said or what God has inspired or whatever.
Absolutely.
That's utter bullshit. It's just simply not true, which is why all of this is so confusing. So I just am not convinced because I haven't seen the evidence. That's where I sit. Simple as anything. I will just go on looking and searching and asking. And as I've said a million times on this podcast, if any being would know more about what it would take to convince me that they're real, it would be a deity of some description, a god or a creator or whatever. If and when they decide to tell the world or me individually or whatever that it's real, then I will just continue to not make a big noise saying, oh, you're wrong, I don't believe you, you're wrong. You are right for where you're at and what you're doing and what you want to believe. I mean, I don't have a problem with anyone believing anything. Yeah. God, if you got upset about everyone who didn't believe what you believed, you'd spend your entire life arguing and being upset and hurt and dismayed with humanity, because we're all different creatures. You know, no one's righter than the other creatures. We're all just on a journey as a young, evolving planet in the middle of nowhere, trying to find our way through it. And this, with one simple message, as far as I'm concerned, that is to love one another, be kind to one another, help everyone you possibly can, and forget all the other bullshit. It's just stuff that gets in the way. It's not necessary. It's just about love and acceptance of everyone. That's what the whole message, I think, of humanity. Forget about whether you call yourself a Buddhist or a Muslim or whatever. Just be nice and don't be a dick.
And so for me, I hear that and I say, amen. It's good preaching. You know, that's because if the God that I believe is real and his character is what I understand God's character to be, then what we believe or don't believe, or the doctrine, this and that, that's so much less important than how we treat one another. You know, like what you just said, you know, love, be inclusive, take care of each other, be sacrificial. Like when I say sacrificial, I mean we give of our own to those who don't have much, you know, like, so that no one has too much, but everyone has enough. You know, this kind of idea of humanity, of community, of that's flourishing. And for me, that's my belief is that is hardwired into, like, that comes from somewhere, that comes from God. You know, that's something that, not because we read it, not because it was written down somewhere, but because it's a fundamental part of our being. It's like you can live in the middle of the Sahara and never know any faith or Bible or anything like that, but there's an impulse in you that if your brother is hurt on the ground, to want to heal them, to help them, to take care of, you know, there's that impulse. And it's that impulse, it's that thing within us that is, we're wired for love, we're wired for connection. It's the core of it, it's the ground of our being. You know, that is God for me. And we put language around it, but that's kind of what we're talking about. And it transcends any one doctrinal statement of belief, you know. But what I loved about what you were saying as well, and this is where I put you in the same camp with Hitchens. I have a lot of respect. Can't hear me?
Can you hear me, Luke?
Yeah.
You can hear me. I don't know if anyone else can hear you. You've gone off again. Chen, can you hear what Luke is saying at the moment? Because I can't.
Check.
Just so I can double check, make sure he's actually being heard. Otherwise, he's making a brilliant point to no one. So just let us know, Chink, if you can hear Luke.
All right, check.
Let us know if you can hear me. There's been some audio issues tonight. I'm trying to go back to where I was. I can hear Luke. Okay, cool. So it's something coming from my side. Apologies for that. I still can't hear it. Wow. Okay. Well, Luke, you can might as well just continue on talking then, and I'll try and find out what the hell is happening with this audio.
Maybe I should take the bit. You got to get a better computer. What are you running, Pete?
Go again.
Commodore 64 or something. Can you hear me? Check. You got to upgrade your typewriter.
No, I've lost you again. What the hell, man? He's taking the piss out of you. It just flashed in for a second then.
Oh yeah. What about now? What about now?
No, it's still
Or
not
now?
there. I don't know what's going on. Let me just try getting out of that screen because that's what I was doing when it.
What about now?
Hmm.
This happened literally before, and you did something to you. You did something. I know I'm talking to you and you can't hear me, but it's quite therapeutic.
That should
So
be
just
it
do.
there.
Yep.
No.
What about now?
Gosh.
No. Try doing literally what you did before.
Damn. I'm just going to change.
Yeah, change that.
This and then change that.
Yep. What about
No,
now?
that didn't work either.
Didn't work.
No, default. Default.
Oh, Jenk, you're gonna get me in trouble. You're gonna get me fired, mate. But that is a good one.
Okay, that's not working.
He only loves the cathedral architecture because he was the one that designed it. Rowie. How about now? I could keep going. By the time he fixes this.
I got you now. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Wow.
What was it?
I've got no idea. It's just switching backwards between my microphone and my headphone settings. For some unknown reason, it just goes off, and then I just got to. I've never been able to work out the pattern. It just. Anyway, Chink has been filling in the gaps, which is fabulous. Let's go back to. I don't know what you were saying, but I'm sure it was wonderful.
It was bloody good, mate. It was really amazing.
Okay,
you would have been blown away. Actually, I was going to give you a really good. I'll finish it. The good compliment. I was going to say, I put you in the same camp as Hitchens, right? Because I really like Hitchens, right? Because he was always open. He was like, yes, I'm an atheist, and he wrote about it and debated and this and that, but yet there was a softness about him where he was like, listen, I'm open to there being a God, but I can't get from here to there.
No.
But there was a respect, there was an understanding, and it was on the table. It's like what I said before, how that atheism's kind of always on the table, and that's a healthy faith. I think a healthy atheism keeps the possibility of God on the table as well. Whether you get there or not is irrelevant. Whereas I kind of feel like Dawkins and Harris and a few of those others, it's like it's so far off the table, it's not even funny. It becomes militant, and then because it's not on the table, it can become a bit I don't know, a bit malignant in a sense, rather than a healthy thing. But I like Hitchens, and you're the same. You do that. So I like what you're saying. You love the idea of a God, love there to be that, but there's a bridge you can't cross.
And I know what you're saying about Dawkins, and he's too buried in science to be able to, I know what you're saying. Sam Harris, I like a lot of what he says, but certainly Hitchens was my favorite for that. So I appreciate the comparison, but my God, please. I mean,
same intelligence as well, same brain.
yeah, right. Whatever. I mean, I would, if I was in the same room as him, I'd sit in the chair right in the corner and be very quiet. I do know what you're talking about, Jing, as far as Richard Dawkins. I know the term he coined about loving the European cathedral architecture, loves the hymns, even though he doesn't believe a word of it. No, he doesn't. There is much to admire in the hands or the arms that reach out from the center of religion and the things that it affects, like the beautiful writings, some of the Psalms and the architecture, and it created beauty. And if you can't appreciate them for what they are, with fear of sounding religious, then you've got some serious issues. And I think that Dawkins, or any intellectual person, a lover of art and architecture and stuff, I mean, yeah, of course you can look at it, but Dawkins is not a cultural Christian either, and I see him in the same thing. I would appreciate all of that beautiful stuff, but I wouldn't consider myself a cultural Christian at all. Still trying to find a clearer definition of that. Let's move on and see what else you've got. Also, he said that he feels far more comfortable in a country full of churches than a country full of mosques. Yeah, well, that's a part of what you grow up with and what you're used to. That's become a real challenge for a lot of people around my age. I was talking to my wife about it the other day, just the things that there was an argument about someone. They said that if I went and got into a plane, a big jet, and there was a woman pilot, they would walk off. As if a woman can't fly a plane as well as a man. Now, this will be a challenge for a lot of people, and please listen to me very carefully when I say this, because I'm not in any way, shape, or form supporting that person. And I don't know what a nutbag he was, but when you've grown up all of your life seeing something, let's just say for that argument, all your life you've only ever seen male pilots, and that's happened in my entire life. I've never seen a woman fly a plane. So there's this little weird thing in the back of your head that just goes, well, I've never seen this before. Is the reason I've never seen this before because for some reason women can't fly planes? Now, from an intellectual perspective, I know that is absolute bunkum. It makes no sense whatsoever. But unless you're aware of the ability to be able to define what's actually real in your brain and what it is that you've just seen over and over and over again, and it happens in every aspect of life. I still freak out when I see a woman driving a bus. Not freak out, but I look at it and I go, oh, wow, there's so many women bus drivers. In my time, there was no such thing. Women didn't drive buses. They didn't drive rubbish trucks. They didn't fly planes. They didn't do any of that stuff. So when you see it now, and this is a part of why people struggle so much with the norm that they grew up with. Men were with women, and that's it. And that's the norm, and that's the way God made it for a man and a woman. And anyone else that goes outside of that, it's just wrong, and it shouldn't happen, and I can't cope with it. And that's what people are like these days. So I guess it's for me to say that I love all those beautiful things about religion has no bearing on whether or not I see God in them. Although I dare say that obviously they were inspired, certainly the Psalms. And that one about feeling more comfortable in a country full of churches than I kind of get it. And there are many people who won't understand that. And I think it's very much an age thing when you've been so used to being a certain way, which brings me back to the argument we had a few months ago about why the world is so sexist. And you can thank the Bible for that, because it laid it out very clearly about, and same with the Quran, about men's superiority and the whole sexist world we have now is very much a representation of what people were taught was the right way to do it. It's a huge struggle now. People, the word feminism just sends a chill down a lot of people's spine, as if that's women trying to take over the world, and then women trying to just be respected and seen as being equal. But going off on a tangent. So I understand what you're saying about Hitchens. I get that. You can hear Luke. We know that wasn't anything important. He's taking the piss. Yeah, I get that. No issues on my end. You must be talking about the sound. Good. Luke, Rowie's so old he didn't celebrate Christmas growing up because Jesus wasn't born yet. Gene, just as a matter of interest, you do know I have the power to make you disappear, don't you? You do realize that poking the bear will not get you anything. Well, it will.
He was just laughing because I was being just generally hilarious. There's a lot of material you missed.
Right. Yeah. Well,
it was good though. It was A grade. Absolutely A grade.
Well, we could probably track it down and find it somewhere. It'll be in there. Yeah. Buried somewhere.
It would have gone viral already, I would imagine. Check TikTok. It's probably all over it.
Yeah.
I liked what you were saying before. Just I know it's tangential a little bit, but it's kind of how we do it. But I liked what you're saying. How I've never really thought about that. That you see something you haven't seen before, you've not grown up with, and yes, the intelligence and the rationale should say this is okay, but that initial apprehensiveness, and that's a crossroads, isn't it? Right. So you see a woman pilot if you've been raised and you've never seen it. So there's a crossroads. One of those roads is you walk off the plane because you're unwilling to challenge your own preconception of how the world should be using your brain. But on the other hand, you go, oh, okay, why am I thinking this? And you think it through and you go, actually, it's likely this reason why we haven't seen it, not because they have smaller brains, not because they're unable to do it. You know what I mean? Like all that sort of stuff. And that's where that just popped, as you're saying it popped into my head. Like that's actually why it's important to have voices and why we should talk about things like patriarchy, things like racial prejudice, systemic racism, all of these things. And people get so hung up on it and they get so funny about it and they go, well, I'm not a racist, so I don't want to talk about it. But, I'm not a misogynist, so I don't want to. It's like, yeah, but that's the point. Like we don't, the education and talking about this stuff is not to say, well, this is, everyone is racist and therefore they need to do it. It's like, no, it's so that when we see things that we're not used to seeing, we can understand, the reason we haven't seen a woman pilot is because they weren't allowed to do it, because they were withheld from doing it. Nothing to do with ability, nothing to do with this. You know what I mean? That's why. And then instantly you go, this is a good thing, like rather than this is scary. Same with it's like how we've understanding the history of racism, the history of colonization, all of this sort of stuff allows us to say, we understand what's happening in this community because there's actually a legacy of this, it gives us more data, more information to be able to make better, more loving decisions on how we move forward. Do we walk off that plane or do we go, this is great, and sit down and enjoy the flight?
Yeah.
And grow from that, and then start to expect to see more women pilots and start to think, this is great. And then all of a sudden, it expands your mind to you start to say, well, where else are we not seeing this? And where else are bus drivers, CEOs, whatever. And
it's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy, but it's like these little moments that start to expand our mind to go, okay, yeah, this is a problem. So patriarchy isn't a buzzword. It doesn't mean I'm a misogynist who hates women, but I can acknowledge, we've got a ways to go to get a level playing field, and that's okay to acknowledge that. It's and it's good to talk about it because it expands our understanding for those situations.
I remember the very first time I saw a male nurse.
Yeah.
I back in the 70s, I spent about 3 months in Royal Perth Hospital at a serious motorbike crash up in Dampier, and had to fly to Perth in a flying doctor. That was a hell of a lot of fun.
Jeez.
And every nurse was a woman. There was no such thing. There was no such thing as a male nurse. And I remember when I first saw one, I thought how can you what? A nurse is a woman. I was only young, and I thought, how can you have a male nurse? Isn't that a contradiction in terms? And that's what I thought. A nurse was a woman. How can you have a male nurse? That makes no sense. And now there's male nurses everywhere. There's probably as many female doctors as there are male doctors, and it's just what you get used to, what you get programmed into believing is the norm. And then when something comes along that isn't the norm, i.e., there's a lady flying this plane, I'm out of here. It's like, wow. I get it, but you have to, as you said, you've got to stop and go, well, hang on a minute. I need to think deeply about this and realize how irrational that is to assume And there are things in life that attract men more than attract women. And vice versa. Motor
Which is
racing.
okay.
Motor racing is one thing. 99.999% of racing car drivers are men. I've never seen a woman drive an F1. I've only ever seen one woman drive a V8 supercar in Australia. I can't think of her name now. She had a great deal of success, but she actually left motor racing and went into, I think it was either soft porn or something like that, and then came back into motor racing. Simone, that was her name, but she never was. And it kind of, a lot of men were going, "Oh, well, there you go. She was never any good." Women can't drive racing cars, so but it doesn't attract. It obviously doesn't attract women. Not many women look at it. But having said that, I know
they're probably too smart to drive at 200k an hour around us in circles.
I don't know what it is, but it's a reality of life that the different things attract different people for whatever reason. I don't know, and it's not,
which is totally okay.
Yeah. It's fun to watch comedies from 25 to 30 years ago. One of the recurring jokes in Meet the Parents was that Ben Stiller wasn't a doctor. He was a...
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. It
is true. Yeah. Yeah. There's plenty of movies that haven't aged too well.
No. Very dated. Very, very dated. But it just goes to show just how young we are as a planet. The solar system's been around for billions and billions and billions of years, and we haven't, and we're fairly new at this, and we're not overly fantastic. And I think that one of the reasons is I find it similar to the great South African author. I can't think of his name now. It'll come to me. Said that the one amazing thing about Australia, why Australia is so incredible, is that it was never meant to be a country. It was a dumping ground for prisoners from the UK. It was never meant to be a country, and out of it, in a very short period of time, has become the leader and creator of so many things. Most people don't realize the things that have been invented in Australia. Like Wi-Fi is an Australian invention. The lawnmower is an Australian invention. There's hundreds of incredibly technological advancements that were things created in Australia.
Pavlova.
Well, now that's debatable because the Kiwis are claiming that to be theirs. The Pavlova first one was made and in Fremantle at the Esplanade Hotel. That's where the Pavlova was born. Yep. And
on the Esplanade.
On the Esplanade, the big white hotel on the corner.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah, that's where the birthplace of the Pavlova was, and the Kiwis are going, no, it was created. I mean, who knows? We'll take it. Who's going to believe a Kiwi?
Just because it's got kiwi fruit on it, they've thought, we could claim this. I thought, where'd the Esplanade get these?
Same place. The Kiwis got them probably from the local grocer. But it's, I digress. I can't remember what the hell I was even talking about. How did I get onto
Australia, colonies, how it's become a country?
I can't think of the South African author. The Power of One, I think it was that he wrote.
Like the movie.
Yeah. The guy who wrote the book. Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue, but I can't. Anyway, he said Australia was never meant to be. It's so young, and so is the whole planet, and so is the human race. And we're still trying to figure out how to do this, and we're not very good at it. And I think one of the greatest disruptions to the development, Mandela wasn't a South African author. He was many things, but he wasn't a South African. Bryce.
I nearly mentioned Mandela.
Bryce Courtney. Bryce, is that his name? Bryce.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, thanks, Cenk, but no.
I was going to say Elon
Thankfully.
Musk, but no.
Yeah. But I think one of the greatest problems with the development of mankind, to use a not so accurate name, is that religion. I think that's when everyone gave up on the gods because they realized that they were just there to explain things that we didn't understand. And now that we understand most things, I think that it would have been much better. I think I might be completely wrong. It might not have made any difference at all, but I think it's been one of the greatest things that has separated us growing together as a race. I think it's just caused so much division, so much fighting and arguing, simply because it's a mess and people don't understand it, and we're all of us expected to believe together that something that we can't see or touch or smell or taste or hear from, and somehow just all join together and believe in the same mysterious thing. And I think it hasn't made the earth and the world a very pleasant place to live in. I think it's just full of self-centered, selfish, rich people who don't give a shit about everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
an interesting one. Yeah. It's been a bit of a double-edged sword, religion. There's a lot of pain, a lot of bad stuff that's come from it. But then there's a lot of good as well. So it's really hard to kind of go, what would the world be better off? I mean, and there'd be people that know.
It's not religion per se that's the problem, is it? It's people. It's a religion in itself.
People. Yeah, correct. Yeah. It's people. It is people. And again, it's the times where faith, God, the belief in God, religion, whatever label we want to put on it, has done the most damage has been when it has been distorted. And I'm not just saying, people misuse scripture because they're interpreting it in ways that I disagree with. I'm talking about fundamental, like no one's interpretation of scripture could ever justify the Crusades. Like that. So it's like, that's not just the progressive Luke saying, that's not how the Bible should be interpreted. It's in no way can you read Jesus and go, we should just now go slaughter a bunch of, people in the name of this God of love. In the same way that, the 9/11 attacks is a fundamental distortion of Islam and the interpretation of the Quran. It's like we all know Muslims who are not terrorists. That's such a distorted, isolated view. It's like looking at Westboro Baptist and saying, well, that's what Christianity is. It's like, no, they're batshit crazy and they're wrong and they're horrible, horrible people. It's like, this is the same thing. So I think most of the time the damage that's been done, but when you look at it, I mean, it's hard that the Crusades and that, the scale of that's a lot of people. That's a lot of misinterpretations, misunderstanding. We're seeing it in America now with Christian nationalism and this, they're trying, I don't know if you watch The Handmaid's Tale, but
I've been meaning to, because that's what we're watching in America at the moment.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's really, really good. I recommend you watch it. But I mean, that's what they're trying to wind the clock back, and they're doing it, in the name of God, and it's rubbish. But when you have a platform, you got people, you got visibility, that picks up steam, and it's horrible. What's being undone over there? We're rolling back decades and decades of progression in civil rights, in all of this stuff, and it's like in 4 years or in 6 months it just becomes Stone Age again. So it's quite scary what can be done. There's a bit tangential as well, but it's easy for these things to, I think that's what I'm saying, it's easy for these distortions to pick up a head of steam and start to become the norm way of thinking rather than
particularly in a country that's obsessed with God. I was watching a thing and Bruce Springsteen was performing somewhere, and he sat down on the stage and he started talking about the problems and that's happening in America at the moment, and went all the way through this. Yeah, and it was wonderful. And then at the end, he stood up and he said, "Let's pray," and I walked away, and I went, Why does that have to be? I mean, what? Okay, so Bruce Springsteen, someone that everyone admires if they're into music. Why would you say? I sat and thought about this for ages. Why would you get up and say, "Let's pray"? What does he expect is going to happen if everyone prays? Is Donald Trump going to change his way? Is America suddenly going to change overnight? Is anything tangible going to actually happen if everyone in America prays at the same time? I don't understand it's an overused word that at the end of the day makes the person who's praying feel good, and as we've discussed before about prayer, it makes the person who's being prayed for feel good as well, that people are caring about it. But I just find that it's just such a throwaway line. You know, thoughts and prayers go out to all of the kids who've just been murdered in their primary school. Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Neither of those two things actually stop what it is that they're praying for to stop. It has no impact. It's just and then just after that, I was reading another guy who was one of the Christians, one of the watered down Christians that you're talking about, saying, I can't remember what the post was, but it was along the lines of Joe Biden, who's unwell, obviously got cancer.
Yeah.
And this guy was saying, the only thing that stops me from wishing the worst to him is God and my Christianity. Without it, I would love to see the demise of that man. And I thought, and I went on there and said, mate, are you for real? Is that what you're going to fly a flag of Christianity and then speak publicly to everyone saying, if it wasn't for Christianity, you'd love to see the demise of this man who is treacherous, you called him, and a liar and a cheat. So which one are you? A people hater?
Yeah. And he's effectively saying that. He's saying that he wishes his demise. It's like when people say, no offense, but you're really ugly. You know, it's like, well, just because you say no offense in front of it doesn't change that this is what you say. So by him saying, if I wasn't a Christian, I really would wish this. You're saying, no, this is what you wish. Otherwise, why are you saying it? Because if it was for your Christianity, you wouldn't be thinking that. You wouldn't be feeling it. You wouldn't be documenting. You wouldn't be. Oh man!
I said that is one of the most disgusting, disgraceful things I've ever heard from anyone, let alone someone who claims to be a Christian. And I said, I can guarantee you one thing, my friend, 100%. If you're ever walking down the street and Jesus walks towards you, I can guarantee you he will walk straight past you and look for someone with a kind heart, because he won't see it in you. How dare you fly that flag? That is just absolute disgrace. What a seriously idiot.
So here's the thing, like I'm not a Trump fan. That's putting it mildly. Yeah, it's an understatement. And yet I can say genuinely no part of me wishes him to fall ill, to get cancer, to be killed. Yeah, and I've heard people say, "Oh, if only he was assassinated, or if someone's going to take him out." And I just go, "That's horrible." Like, it doesn't matter who it is. You cannot wish that on anyone. It's like, because you lose your humanity when you start to do that. You know, that becomes scapegoating. I
can understand it though. If you see someone who is, I mean, draw the bow back further and say, you know, if given the chance, when Hitler started doing what he did, would you put a bullet in his head to save millions of people? Now, the pain and suffering that Trump is pouring out upon that country, I can totally understand people who would say if I had a gun, I'd shoot him to stop him. And why didn't the assassination work? I get that. I understand that. And I have no good feelings for that man whatsoever. I think the sooner he is not what he's doing and not who he is, the better for the country, because he is just an absolute.
Oh, I agree with that.
Can't say enough.
My problem is, and I think for me, this is one of the big lessons I take from the cross is that vengeance only ever begets vengeance. You know, it's we take out Trump, and then it becomes okay, and then someone takes out whoever replaces him, and then someone takes out whoever replaces them. Because it becomes normalized, it becomes okay. This becomes something that we can do. Violence only ever grows. It's a cancer. Violence is a cancer. That's why we see gang violence. It's just retribution. It's just, and we see wars that go on for 150, 200 years, 1,000 years, because and at some point you forget what you're fighting for. You're just getting them back for the last skirmish, for this and that, and it just becomes. It just spreads. It only ever escalates. It never de-escalates until someone stops it. And that's what I see happening on the cross. That decision to the decision to go to the cross rather than to take over the military uprising, the military revolution of Israel, which is what they were expecting. It changes things. That's why we see non-violent. I think non-violent resistance is the only way that we change the world. Violence just cannot. It will never actually achieve what we want it to achieve. Even if we think short term, even if we think we take out Hitler or whatever, it doesn't. It's the long term actions. There's got to be another way. There has to be resistance. We have to resist evil. We've got to stand up against this sort of stuff. But it can't be with the sword. I don't know if Pete's there. I think he is. He's probably praying. But Cenk, I love that. Thoughts and prayers, performative non-action. That I'm going to steal that. That's brilliant. I couldn't put it better. Performative non-action. It's a way of acknowledging something that's happened without having to actually participate in changing it. Without actually really having to put in any effort at all. And we see this in America with, and obviously we see it in Australia as well. We see it in a lot of places, but there's another school shooting. Got all these representatives and Congress people and that saying, "Oh, look, our thoughts and prayers." They're people that are in a position to try to change gun laws, to try to bring about something that's going to scale this back to prevent another school shooting, but they won't do that. Instead, it's just thoughts and prayers saying, "I acknowledge something is terrible, but I'm not going to do anything about it." And that's where we need a transition from performative non-action to just action. Sometimes that action can be performative to raise awareness and things like that, but it doesn't always have to be. And I think that's what I would call like the prophetic, where people will actually do something performative and take action to bring about change, usually unpopular change. That's like the prophets of old and of new. So, did you get any of that, Pete?
I heard the whole thing, mate. Yes, I make sure I leave the door open and have a listen. I just needed to have some liquid fuel.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Super dry tonight. I don't know why. I didn't drink much water today, so I'm a bit dehydrated. But I hear what you're saying, particularly about the performative non-action thoughts and prayers. I mean, wow. It's one of those things. It's a feel-good thing to say. Makes me feel good.
Mm.
Didn't do anything. I don't know. Just made me feel good.
Yeah.
It's just it's not actually doing anything for anyone. Something I heard you say. I was going to make a comment about it. What was it? There we go, Jenk. It's funny. My wife and I were on a cruise 2 weeks ago having dinner with two sisters from Adelaide. Oh, we were talking about John Howard's response to the Port Arthur massacre. Yes. This is the two countries that talk about this the most are Australia and America, because, of course, Australia, still to date, I think it is the worst massacre. I can't remember the numbers now, but
47.
Was it that many?
I think so. Yeah.
Crazy.
I'm pretty sure 47.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that.
Yeah. I thought it was in the 30s, but I don't
maybe
know.
37.
But look, either way, what John Howard did was incredible, because we haven't had one since. And unfortunately, America loves to hang on to their precious amendments, which it just, it's a discussion and argument we've had a million
35.
times.
35, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I was actually right about something.
You were.
Yeah, it was a great response, and a very young what's the guy? Is it Aussie? The English guy, John. What's his name? Has the comedy show on.
Oliver.
Hey,
John Oliver.
Yes, John Oliver. When he was quite young, I think John Howard had been in power not too. Had finished being in power not too much before this. Was interviewing one of the gun lobbyists from America. It's hilarious if you get a chance to put it on. He was interviewing him, saying that this is what happened in Australia. There was a massacre, and the guy goes, "Yeah," and he said, "Then John Howard banned all the guns," and he went, "Yeah," and he said, "And then there's not been one ever since." Went, yeah. And the guy's going, "Do you not find that amazing?" Well, no, because things are very different in America than they are in Australia. Yes, they are, and gun lobbyists can't see how the blatant, obvious result of what they did, take away the guns, and for some obscure reason, these psychos are more interested in their rights than the lives of children. I cannot fathom that a country is so lost in its priorities. It's like, wow. I mean, we're not just talking about what John Howard did. Of course, back then was just rifles and pistols. It wasn't, we
didn't have AR-15s and crap like that.
Designed for multi-mass killing as quickly as possible in the event of a war or protection of some part of your country or whatever that necessarily needs soldiers to go in and get results really quickly, so these things can fire so many rounds and just kill so many people so quickly. What the hell has that got to do with rights?
Yeah.
And
not only, it's gone beyond not just the right to bear arms, but it's like they'll fight, they'll go, look, let's, maybe if we introduce a bill to like not sell them to people with mental health issues, or maybe we won't sell silencers or like what I mean, like automatic reloaders and things like this that are just unnecessary. So let's just start there. And they're like, absolutely not. No, it's our right. It's like, well, hang on a minute. What are we talking about the same thing here? And that's the problem. And they go, you can't change the Constitution. Yeah, you can.
That's why it's called a freaking amendment.
Yeah. It's like, of course you can.
Jim Jeffries, the classic bit of comedy. Jim Jeffries says it as an Aussie going into America and pulling apart their their amendment. It's,
Really?
but and even probably 12 months ago now, I saw that there's a like a Coke machine somewhere. I think it might be at Walmart, where you can just go out and buy ammunition, put the money in, and it
Oh,
spits out the ammunition. Why would you
yeah. Why would you
allow
need that?
that? Who is the moron that ticked the box going, yep, you can do that? Absolutely. Walmart, yep. And kids can go into gun shops and buy a rifle and ammunition, and then all stand back and go, wow, we didn't think that's how many kids died? Wow. Oh, well, thoughts and
Yeah.
prayers are with them. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Who could have seen that coming?
No, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In Australia, is there a right to self-defense? There is, within limits. Can you stand your ground if someone is threatening you with serious bodily harm or death, or do you have a retreat? To have to retreat in that situation. Look, it depends on the crime. It depends on a lot of things, but there has been people who have killed intruders into their house in self-defense once it was proven that it was legitimate self-defense. It's very hard to kill someone under any circumstances in this country and get away with it. You really have to. It has to be an exceptional situation. You can't just kill someone because they're into your house, broken into your house illegally.
Exhaust all options.
Yeah. So the answer to your question is yes, you can, but the chances are you're going to get for it. I have heard of some circumstances where someone did kill someone and they actually got away with it, but with self-defense. But it's rare. What's the difference in America? What's your law as far as self-defense of someone intruding into your house? Do they have to be threatening you with serious bodily harm or death?
I think it's
you need to have witnesses?
I think they just need to be trespassing. I'm sure it's different in every state, but I think, and Jen could be able to illuminate us properly, because I just talk shit. I'm not an American, but I think from my understanding is if you're on someone's property, they have the right to pretty much kill you. I think that's been the case in some, and that's the other thing. The difference with Australia is most people, certainly most people in suburbia, don't have guns, so it's pretty hard to kill someone. I know the movies show that it's pretty easy, but it's like it's not easy to murder someone with your bare hands, even if they've come into your house. Like, we don't have guns, so that's the thing. Because in America, I'm pretty sure, I know there's been a lot of people that have, sadly, knocked on the door asking for help, or for young black kid knocks on the door to try and ask for a telephone, and is just shot straight away. Because they're on someone's property, and you just go, and it's legal, I think.
Yeah. I don't know anyone in my circle of friends, and that's very, very wide and broad. I don't know anyone that has a gun. What, like one?
Yeah, neither do I.
I know had a rifle. But in a country like America with over 300 million people, I think there's about 350 million guns or something mental that just pretty much works out to be every house has at least one. So many houses have multiple. You see the photos of everyone in the family holding up their guns, M16s through to, all sorts. It's like, wow. But this is what I was talking about before, is what becomes the norm.
Yeah.
It's what everyone grows up with. Everyone grows up seeing guns. The guns aren't rare. If I saw a gun in everyday life here, I would freak out of my brain. Any kind of gun.
It'd be very unusual.
Oh my God. It would just be like, what the hell are you doing with a gun? It would be insane. Back in the day, the only people that had guns were farmers with shooting rabbits and foxes and all the rest of it to protect their own land. And
like you said, they were rifles. They were usually bolt action rifles. They're not.
Correct.
They're not gonna take down an elephant. They're gonna kill a rabbit or a roo, and that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and some people, use them for bad things. I get that absolutely happens, but very, very rare. In America, there's a legal doctrine called castle doctrine, where if someone enters your home, the owner is given a wide berth to defend your property. Yeah, okay. So what you said is right, Luke, that they can actually do that. Again, there would be lots of different circumstances whether or not and I'm sure you can't just, someone's in my house, bang, dead. I'm sure there has to be some.
I think they can.
Really?
And that's what I think Jenk's saying with the wide berth, because pretty much all you have to say is, and again, because guns are prevalent, they just say, I assume they had a gun, I assume my life was in danger, it was shoot or be shot.
That's
And they
true.
may
If
have
someone's in your house,
Yeah.
you'd think that they would have a gun.
Well, yeah. And even if they didn't, you only have to prove that you thought they did.
Is this something that to your knowledge, Jenk, that happens regularly? Or has it happened so often you don't even hear about it? I don't know. Interesting. Basically, the rule is, would a reasonable person in a similar circumstance to you do the same thing? Okay. And not going to lie, I'm a gun owner that I keep locked up in a quick access safe because when seconds count, the police are only minutes away.
Yeah, so I've got no problem with I totally get it, and it's easy for us to say that living in the safety, over here with the different gun laws and whatnot, but it's like we feel safe because that's the gun laws. If those gun laws aren't there and everyone's got a gun, well, we probably would all. I mean, I'm a pacifist, so I probably wouldn't, but I'd be the exception, and I don't think anything of anyone. And I think I totally understand Jenk having a gun. It's probably a wise decision. You know what I mean, from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
And it's kept locked up in a quick access safe, and that's just the lay of the land there. So the problem isn't with responsible gun owners at all. The problem is with the laws, the overall culture. And again, you can't just wave a magic wand or and just say this all ends now. I think it's probably the only way that works is if it's scaled back over time to get to a point.
Well, I think they should at least strip it back to, if you're going to have a gun, why, and what is your reason for having a gun? For protection. Okay, then you're allowed one gun and it's a pistol. If your desire to have a gun is just purely for protection against the possibility of someone breaking into your house, then you can have a pistol. The rest of all of your 6,000 guns that you've got because you're a maniac should not just be allowed. And
one pistol, one bazooka.
Yeah. Why do you, and you don't have to answer this question, obviously, it's none of my business, Jenk, but I was just wondering why you do have a gun owner and where you call yourself a gun owner. Is that multiple guns or is that just one? And why do you have it? Because I don't know if you've seen the Jim Jeffries stand-up comedy thing that he did on gun ownership. But he, as he said, if you've got a gun and someone's in your house, how the hell are you going to get to your quick access safe if they're about to shoot you? And he played on this thing saying, hang on a minute, just wait. Oh, I'm going to fuck you up, mate. Just let me go now. Was it 25 to the right, 23 to the left? What's the safe number? Your mother's birthday? What the fuck? And it's like trying to open the safe to protect himself, and someone's already in the house. It's like,
they're usually, I think they're usually thumb. They'd be a thumbprint or something. You'd be pretty quick, I'd imagine now.
Yeah,
and it would have to be next to your bed. Yeah,
Yeah.
the old. Then you got to crack it. You've got the old stethoscope. Trying
to listen to the click, and then opening it up, and then pull the gun out. It's too late. They've already shot you.
Where's the ammo?
Yeah, self. What happened here?
Oh yeah, thumbprint. Yeah.
What happened to the? Why is that one not working? Click. Self-defense situations happen all the time.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a thumbprint. So yeah, okay, fair enough.
It would have to be. That's the whole point, to be able to
I've got
access it.
thumbprint on my phone. The bloody thing never opens. I can never open it with my thumbprint. So I reckon that that happened with me.
Hey Siri, open the bloody safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is interesting. I think we were lucky, with it was a different situation. Yeah, taking nothing away from what Australia did, what John Howard did, and I think America needs to do that. But we weren't at the state that America was in now. To be able
No.
to, so he was able to just go, no, this isn't happening. And it was so unprecedented. It was so huge and so violent. It was a massive wake up call. I don't know. And we weren't, I'm glad it turned out the way that we did in terms of how we responded to it. I'm not glad it happened, um, but I don't think we had the opportunity to become desensitized to these events either.
And it's fair to
Whereas I
say back
think,
then when Martin Bryant did what he did and killed 35 people in Tasmania, it's fair to say guns weren't an issue up until that point. It's not like we had
no,
killings all
that's
the
what I mean.
time. We never had a massacre or a mass killing of any more than probably 2 or 3 people at
Yeah.
all. No one had guns. It was just guns were rare. And although having said that, when they had the amnesty and people gave the guns back, there was a decent pile. But that's of a country of 20 million people as it was back then. So it wasn't a lot of guns
Yeah.
there, but it made everyone feel safe. And then since then, we've just sat back and just watched America just unfold to the world of being the ultimate in complete. And I'm not putting everyone in the same boat, but the people in authority, just complete and utter stupidity, pig ignorant, ridiculous, allowing children to be killed at will simply so they can have their rights. The children don't have any rights. Their right to life is taken away, but apparently that's not as important as the gun lobbyists in America. It's insane. The whole world looks at America and shakes their head and say, we don't have massacres in any of our countries. You're the worst and you're the only one. And here's why. Yeah, but we're not going to change that. We have our rights and we have our rights to have guns. No, you don't. If you look at the original agreement and reason why guns were allowed to have, it was to protect, ironically, a mad government that were intending doing some really nasty things to the innocent people of America, and then therefore you were allowed to defend yourself, unless I've got the third or fourth or fifth or whatever amendment it is that actually states that. They had muskets. Again, Jim Jeffries pointed out that they had muskets, and if you're going to kill someone, you had to organize about 10 minutes beforehand to organize. It wasn't made.
Tuck it in and
That's right. And then, and if they had have known,
sprinkle the
gunpowder. If they had have known then what guns were going to be created and what it would have, they would never have written that into the amendment. They would have said, "Well, hang on a minute, this is going to be insane. This is going to go. We have to get to a point where this can't be real." But they didn't do that. It just it's staggering. Have more than one because 2 is one is none. Meaning, if one breaks, you have a backup. Yeah, fair enough. I guess
makes sense.
guns, like everything else, break. I mean, they're not very technologically advanced. They're a basic mechanism, but I still guess they break. It's true. If you have a gun for protection and it doesn't work, have a backup. And having a backup doesn't mean that you're less likely or more likely to,
use it,
shoot people. But
no, not at all. That's
again,
the thing. 99.999% of gun owners in America are responsible, normal people. They're not gun nuts. It's just like, it would just be, you have to for self-defense. It's just, this is the lay of the land. This is what you have to do. they didn't dictate that. They're just kind of living in it. And it's that 0.00001% that will do the damage. But that's the sad thing is with guns, the damage is significant. Yeah.
Jeg, do you know anyone in your circle of friends or family that don't have a gun at all, and why they've chosen not to? Is there a reason behind those people who choose not to have a gun? What would be the number one reason why they don't? And as I said, is there anyone in your family and circle of friends that aren't gun owners? And do you guys discuss it? Is it a big topic for discussion among everyone? Are there arguments when you're not arguing about God and whatever, we're arguing about gun laws and the damage that they can do and stuff? It'd be interesting to know.
And also, I've got a question. Jenk, have you ever seen a bear? I don't know. Can't remember where Jenk lives. Don't know if it's disclosed that information, but just interested if you've ever seen a bear.
If you put up on the, if it's on screen, people will be able to see it as well, won't they? Yeah, I was going to say we won't mention it, but everyone else will be able to see it. Assuming that there are other people out there. Hello, is there anybody else out there? Because Jenk, I don't know. I've got a funny feeling he's somehow stopping other people from actually getting onto our podcast, because he's just hogging the whole thing. He's it.
I'm happy with that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He's a good. I mean, if you're gonna have someone,
nothing personal. We just like some other people on there. Some sort of variations would be nice. Someone from Poland or Yugoslavia or Kathmandu would be nice. Pretty much everyone I know owns one. The one friend that I know that doesn't is because his teenage daughter was always high and had mental issues. That'd do it.
It's a good reason not to have one.
It is, but isn't that pretty much everyone in America? Sorry, that's my get back. That's my burn to you, because you were having a go. Now, one thing I did mention to you about you saying about my age, this might come as a bit of a shock to you, Jenk, but one thing is 100% guaranteed: unless you die young, you will end up being my age. So you might want to resist being a smart ass, because someone's going to get you when you're old.
And I'm not old. 150 years.
That's right. I'm not old, by the way, either. It's just a number. Ouch, Robbie, I deserve that one. Damn straight you do. The only bear I've seen is in the circus or stuffed in a museum.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough. Same.
So everyone just owns one. But I like you said, Luke, I totally get it. If you're living in a country where people can break in to your home, and like they do in any place in the world, you can actually do that, but the consequences are severe. And everyone else has got one, and you feel like if you don't have one, you're not being protected. I totally get that. I'm sure if I was in that situation, I would have one myself. But if someone walked into our house just as a matter of had it in their purse and showed me that they had a gun, that would just be wow.
It would be
It would be freaky bizarre as all get out. It would be absolutely terrifying. And don't get me wrong,
I've only ever seen police guns.
Sorry,
I've never, other than a police gun.
What about your raid? The cops raided your house last week. Did they not have Glock?
No, I saw all their guns. They were all trained on me. But other than those, normal guns, I've not even seen. Copped a few tasers, sure.
Yeah, who hasn't?
Who hasn't?
No, I used to shoot guns because I grew up in the country. Our family never had them, but I'd go out on farms. And stay, the weekend or whatever with the mates that I went to school with. And I remember shooting rifles, but only ever rifles. And they were just, they were mainly the little, I can't remember what they called now, but they had a little lead bullet in. We used to shoot birds with them. I think about that now and think, oh my God, I actually
not
shot
like BB
innocent.
guns.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, you still could shoot someone with it, but it wouldn't kill them.
Yeah, like the
But
air rifle type things.
air rifles, yeah. I used to love guns, but not for any other reason other than shooting empty Coke cans and stuff that we used to have fun with that, or go to the Royal Show and shoot clowns and things, you know.
Yeah. Most people put the balls in the clown's mouth. You just shoot them.
Correct. In the balls. How did we get onto all of this? Anyway, we were talking about something quite deep and meaningful.
I think
not that it
Australia,
matters.
countries is good, though. It's a worthy topic.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
For a couple of geniuses to solve problems of another country, you know?
Sorry, are we the geniuses, or?
Yeah, we are. You're welcome, America.
Right. Well, out of a country of 350 plus million people, Jenks anyone that wants to talk to us. So I don't think we're set. We're not laying down a big enough trap. That's the problem. You know,
because because we just keep the people guessing. Will we be on? Will we not? Will we start at 8? Will it be 8:30? You just never know. We won't advertise. We're just going to slip in there. So unless you got your notifications on, you won't even know. We're like a ninja.
A very disorganized one.
Like a ninja of
we have a saying.
Content.
We have a saying in Australia, Jenk. I'm not sure whether you've heard of it. When someone can't, like us, be regular or on time, there's a number of variations of this saying, but my favourite is couldn't organise a piss up at a brewery.
I thought you were going to say a root in a brothel.
Well, that was the other option that I was going to say. But what's so funny about that, though, that saying about that, I used to work in a brewery out at Caversham, and I also played the Sunday session out there. I did it for 7 years. Lou and I started off together, and because my last name was Rowe, and there was 2 of us, we called ourselves 2 rows back. So, which was kind of,
good.
Kind of cute. So we sang in the beer garden there for every Sunday afternoon for years. But I had to actually organise a piss up in a brewery. It was hilarious. I had to, because I had my 50th birthday out there. It was a long time ago. And so I remember doing it. I'm going, oh my God, I can actually organise a piss up in a brewery. I've done it. Yes. I haven't organised the root in the brothel yet, but that's, it's early days.
Yeah, mate. Many years left.
Dear.
Jake's got an Aussie education.
Yeah. So, look, final call for anyone who wants to join in this somewhat disjointed and bizarre conversation. Please feel free to give us a comment. What do you think about what we've been talking about? Whether you want to talk about gun control. We didn't actually talk about, since the last time we were on air, of course, there was a new pope for the Catholics. I'm sure that's interesting. I find it very hard and difficult to be interested in someone getting excited about being in charge of the most corrupt and perverted and disgusting organization in the world, with what they've done with child rape and just the litany of absolutely disgraceful things that they have done and covered up. So I don't know why anyone would want to race to be the head of a church that does that. I quite frankly think the only good thing you could do with the Catholic Church, not Catholic people, I'm not having a go at them, but certainly the organisation, I think, in light of what they've done, if it was a business, it would have been shut down a long time ago. But anyway, that will upset anyone.
I'm glad he's progressive. I mean, it remains to be seen, but it seems to be sort of in the same vein as Pope Francis. From that progressive space.
He does seem like a nice guy. And the Pope before him, I think, seemed like a really lovely fellow. And it's not the individuals who are destined to try and make improvements. I just think that it's amazing. We all just get excited about someone being elected into the position of that. You've inherited all of that crap.
Mm.
It's a blight on history like nothing else. It's all under the banner of God and church and decency and the character of Christ, and it's like it just means nothing to them because of what they've done. It's hideous. I can take no joy whatsoever from
bit of a poison chalice, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to be Pope. It's a big ship to steer.
Well, it's a ridiculous ship to steer as well. I mean, it's just wealth and history are two of the biggest blights on anything connected to religion. Jenk, I'd love to know what you think about that. A couple of comments here. I love all the Aussieisms. Piss up in a brewery. Grocer. What's the grocer bit?
Just that we call them grocers. We don't really call them grocers.
We have greengrocers.
We do have greengrocers.
Rowie,
what's your favourite Aussieism?
I've got to pick one. I've got to pick one.
Only one.
Well, it's pretty hard to go past piss up in a brewery, but I'm sure I can think of others. It's not so much an ism, but one of my favourite, and Jenk may have heard of it. We when something's real, something's cool, it's whatever. It's fair income.
Yeah, fair income's great.
Fair income, mate. Are you serious? Are you fair income? What's interesting about that, even though it's an Australian saying, it's actually Chinese. Dinkam means pure gold. When the Chinese came out to Australia, well, they were already here, a lot of them, when there was the gold rush was over in Victoria and WA. When they found gold, pure gold is Dinkam. That's what the Chinese or Vietnamese means that. So we kind of stole it and turned into this Aussie saying, yeah, fair income, mate. It's not in Australia. It's not Australian in the slightest.
That makes it even more Australian.
Doesn't it? Fair income. Can you believe that? Yeah, Dinkam. But we've got, it would be a whole night just coming up with the Aussies. Like, one of the ones that I love too, Jenk, is when you, I don't know what the equivalent would be in America when you say, when someone's taking the piss or telling you bullshit, you go, fair sucker the sav, mate, or fair sucker the sauce bottle. That sauce bottle to us is what you have ketchup in. We have tomato sauce, it's called, or whatever. But yeah, fair sucker the sav, mate. Sav is a saveloy, which is a little sausage. So we have fair sucker the sav, or stone the crows.
Stone the crow is good.
That's another one. Stone the crow. Crow is a bird. We have crows in Victoria. We have ravens in WA. They're not crows over here, but you say stone the flaming crows, mate.
Aren't they crows over here? I thought they were crows.
No, they're ravens. We don't have any crows at all. They're different size. Yep. They don't exist in WA. They're only in South Australia.
I've always looked at them and thought they were crows.
All my life, I thought we had crows. We have two ravens that visit us every afternoon, and they bring bread for us. One of the things about ravens is if you look after them and give them water and stuff, they bring you gifts. And our water features every day. We walk out and it's covered in bread. So they're pinching all the bread from down the road, the shopping centre, and they're coming and they're dropping it in our pond where they have a swim and a bath and stuff. So they bring us gifts for giving them water. Oh, they're incredible. They're so intelligent.
I like that.
Yeah. I don't know what a group of ravens are called, but a group of crows are called a murder. A murder of crows. And if one crow dies from electric shock in the wires and falls down, all of the crows from all around and ravens come and sit with them and cry and weep over the one.
Really?
Yeah,
I've heard they're very intelligent and they
yeah.
remember you. So
Yeah, well,
even
that's right. Yeah.
even magpies, they'll swoop you, but they'll remember you. So you can go through that same area 2 years later, and they'll be like, "I remember this bloke," which explains why some people get swooped more often than others because they've been marked.
Yeah. Magpies are super intelligent. I love magpies so much. Another comment from Jane, we need that Syrian Orthodox guy back from last time. Yes, what was he talking about? Yeah, that's right, the Syrian Orthodox. That was he. Unlike you, he realised that we weren't reliable enough to be here every week. So I think he just went, "Well, I'll go and find somebody else." But just think, mate, it gives you the floor.
Yeah.
I think it's a sad indictment on our podcast, to be honest, that we only managed to attract one gunslinging Yank.
We have a high bar, a high bar for listeners, and Jenk just meets it.
Right.
That's what it is.
That's the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. Hey, Jenk, do you know of what some of the slang words we have for you guys? I don't know what kind of sewage you have in America. Like back in the day, every house in Australia had a tank in the backyard buried under the lawn, and the big truck would come around and suck all of the sewage out. And then they developed sewage pipes and stuff, so all the houses were connected and we have normal sewage. But back then, so what we used to call Americans, we used to call them septic tanks, which is rhyming slang for Yanks. So, and then that would get short and say, "Oh, saw a guy the other day. Yeah, septic. Yeah. Oh, I see a Yank. Yeah, mate, septic tank. Yeah."
Yeah. Or seppos.
Seppos. That's right. But we have the same. We have the same for Chinese people as well. We'd call them China. And because we'd say China plate, because Chinese, of course, make a lot of, they're famous for making plates and stuff. So it's rhyming slang, China plate mate. So I know this bloke, China, yeah, China mate, China plate, he's a good mate of mine. It's like we got all this crazy, crazy. I'm sure you haven't heard of any of this stuff, but maybe we just have a whole podcast on talking to people about the amazing Australian language. Or the lingo.
I like it. I'm partial to when you arrive somewhere and you just need to get down to business and someone's mucking around and they say, hurry up. So, we're not here for a haircut. It's a good one.
Yeah.
But the best version of that is we're not here to fuck spiders.
Yes.
Where does that come from? What does it even mean?
I only heard that the first time about 5 years ago. Everyone I knew heard of this saying, "We're not here to fuck spiders." We're going, what the hell does that mean? What do you mean? What is that even? But I'd never heard it before. It's just incredible. I actually wrote a song years ago, which I performed at the Brook Country Music Festival a long time ago, called Aussie Lingo. And the whole song was about all of the things that we're talking about. Don't come the raw prawn, shooby cobbers, mate, and chunder in the when you're throwing, chunder in the Pacific when you're on a boat and you get sick and you vomit over the edge. It's but all of these classic Aussie sayings were put together in this whole song, and it was hilarious. Aussie Lingo it was called. Yeah. Wow.
Oh, that'd be good. I'd like to hear that.
I'll read you the lyrics out one time. It's it's funny. Fell off the back of a truck, mate. Some people still have septic tanks in rural parts of the country. Well, there you go. We have something in common. I have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to Aussie lingo, Rowie. Oh, well, I thought I was fairly easy to understand. Well, you know what? It might be even confusing with lingo. Lingo is a slang word for language. So Aussie lingo, Aussie words, that's what lingo comes from. I don't know why it's called lingo, but we put on the end of every word that we can think of that's generally an O or an E or a Y, and that goes for names as well.
Especially for names.
Luke could only be Lukey. It can't be Luca or Luco. Yeah. It would be Lukey with a Y on the end. Rowie has to be an E, an IE on the end. It couldn't be Rower or it has to be Rowie. And that's the same with just about every word that we can change in Australia. It has
or
a vowel or a
Azza. If you can put a Z and an A on there.
Yeah, Bazza.
Bazza, Dazza.
Macca, Gazza.
Macca, yeah, Macca. Literally, I've got mates, Daz, Macca,
yeah,
Budgie, Micca.
I remember working for a whole bunch of guys. I didn't know any of their names. And someone said it's Simon. They're going, who's Simon? Simo. Ah, Simo. Yeah, mate.
Simo.
It is a unique, crazy country. It really is.
It is unique. Australia is different.
Yeah.
I mean, every country's different. Every country has that their own unique pride. But I don't know. I enjoy the larrikin side. There's a bit of a weird country, which is what you would expect from a pretty young country made up of a bunch of convicts. It's
it's crazy. It really is. And I hope it never dies because it is so colourful and so beautiful is probably not the right word, but it is if you appreciate the almost the poetic. It's so unique. And I just love it. I'm so proud to be an Aussie and to butcher the English language that we have managed to do.
Yeah.
Because we created our own language without even necessarily knowing about it. Because of course, when England decided to colonize Australia and use it as a dumping ground for prisoners, I mean that was all it was ever going to be. Somehow out of that, with a mixture of a lot of Chinese people, a lot of Asian people in the early days, a lot of Irish, a lot of Poms, somehow, and along with the prisoners, just started creating this language. I'd love to look at the history of when all these words came from. And again, the adaptation of Chinese words like ding cam into an Aussie, one of the most famous Aussie sayings ever, fair dinkum, mate, No, most Australians don't realise it's not an Aussie word at all. Its origins are Asian, and we are apparently the most multicultural country in the world per head of population.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, that's good. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, this is why Australia's so amazing when it comes to Aussie food. And the adaptation of Italian food and Asian food, it's incredible. And we've been voted the best coffee makers in the world. We didn't start out that way. Melbourne was the original coffee place of Australia. Now, it's almost really hard in the suburbs to get a decent coffee in Melbourne, whereas Perth has just gone through the roof. Oh.
I noticed that when we were in America, to find a half decent coffee, we struggled, and we're like, "Wow!" It made us realize how good coffee was back home. But a guy who I used to work at the Christian radio station back in the day. Him and his wife had a coffee shop here, and they went to America and set up one in Tennessee, and it's just gone through the roof. So just a couple of Aussie people set up this coffee shop, and it just gone mental, because most Americans have coffee in that jug thing, which is the worst tasting liquid I've ever tasted in my life, and they criticise our Vegemite. And so even Starbucks apparently doesn't even taste like really good coffee. America's very much behind. Starbucks was the closest we could find to here, but it's nowhere near the quality here. it was just better than the drip, the black mud in the.
Is that what they sell as well? They don't have proper barista coffee machines.
No, they do at coffee. At Starbucks, they do.
Oh, do they?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But just at the hotels and that, often it was just a thing. Or if you go to a diner or whatnot, yeah, it's not. You order a coffee, that's kind of usually what you get, unless you're at Starbucks or something.
What do you drink, Jenk? Not many Americans drink tea either. That's very much an English thing, which, obviously spilled over to us. Two things can be true at once. Vegemite is gross. American coffee. Oh, it's gross. Vegemite's a funny thing. Every time that they try and show on TV how horrible Vegemite is, it has people like getting a spoonful of it and putting it in their mouth. No one in Australia eats Vegemite that way. It's disgusting. You put a thin layer on, toast with hot butter on it.
Yeah,
that's different.
Amazing.
Or have it on something, whatever. But just eating it as it's foul. It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah,
and it was never meant to be a spread.
That's like saying soy sauce is gross. Because you're having a spoonful of it. It's like, no, you're putting a squirt of it on your sushi or whatever, and
correct.
That's good. You're not going to have that. You're not going to drink it.
No, I mean Vegemite should taste foul too because it's not actually meant to be a spread. It was the leftover of when they made beer. That was what was thrown out. That was the leftovers from beer. Yeah, that's what Vegemite.
I didn't know that.
That's where they got it from. Someone tasted it and thought, "Oh, this would be nice." And so then I don't know if that's still where they get it from, but they probably just make it that way. But that's where Vegemite comes from. Yeah. Yeah. No one said about making Vegemite as a spread. That was just purely accidental.
Stroke of genius.
Yes. I treat American coffee like cough medicine, a necessity, not a pleasure. I drink espresso from the machine in the office every morning. Yuck. My wife drinks tea. Wow. Okay. And the little pod coffees, I can't drink that either. It's horrible. We've got a nice coffee machine that does, cooks up the milk and does everything. It grinds the coffee beans and
we get spoiled. We get pretentious over here because so once you do that, it's hard to go back, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, even though we've got a really nice coffee machine, we can't replicate what they have in in cafes and that because they have a proper big commercial coffee machine, which makes that coffee taste the way. I don't know how they do it, but it's the
Vegemite. It's a Vegemite they put in
it. Secret ingredient.
Yeah. Spoonful.
Yes. Anyway, would you guys cool to wrap it up, do you think, or?
Yeah, I was going to say I've got to make a move. So
yeah, I've got a big day tomorrow doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Well, you need a good night's sleep for that, mate.
That's
Otherwise, your performance will be rubbish.
Correct. No, I do. I very rarely have a day where I've had nothing to do. That's for sure. I've got tons to do. It's just a matter of whether I feel like doing it or not.
Right. The joys.
So I think we solved everything that we wanted to solve tonight. There is no God, and let's celebrate.
Unless there is. We always leave with more questions than answers.
Prove it. Where's your evidence, brother? Come on.
That's next week.
Can wrap it up. What is that? Oh, hang on, I got rid of it. See you when I see you. Yeah, mate, thanks for checking in. Hopefully you continue to get notifications.
We'll be back.
Yeah, and I think we're very lucky to have you joining us when we're here because it has been incredibly inconsistent with our with the podcast. We're trying to sort of reinvent it and look at it, what it is we're actually doing, and hopefully we can continue to keep going and make it grow and stuff. And we appreciate you being a part of it because I mean, if you take away you, it means we would have to sit there and all night and talk to each other, and
We hate each other, so that would be really hard.
Well, I wasn't going to tell everyone, and I was going to keep it a secret. But yeah, I despise everything.
Drama
about this.
sells.
He's just such a narrow-minded Christian twat.
Evangelist.
An evangelical one.
I'm trying to save you.
What's this? Love the convo. Your live stream is my happy place on Wednesday mornings. Oh, thank you, mate.
Yeah, you're a legend. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Thank you so much. Yeah, look after your guns and everything, and guns.
And look out for bears in museums and circuses. Carry bear spray.
And especially the ones that are from the museum and are now in circuses. That's a bit freaky, right there.
Yeah, the zombie bears.
That's some weird zombie bears. You sleep deprived or on the wrong medication.
I feel like it. I'm going downhill.
Yeah, you're already downhill, but that's going. Good on you, Jink. We'll catch you next week. For everyone else listening, if you are out there in silence, that's okay. We hope you have enjoyed this podcast. An atheist, a pastor, and a believer, or other way around. An atheist, a believer, and a pastor walk into a bar. Hopefully, we'll have something interesting to talk about next Wednesday. Excuse me, which will be the 28th, I believe. Wow, can you believe May? It is, the 28th. May just started, and it's just about over already. It is unbelievable. Time flies when you're having fun. What do you say? We'll do.
My Glock says
hello. You don't have a Glock. Oh, maybe he does.
Sure he does.
For a matter of interest, Jenk, all the Australian police use Glock pistols, so that's what they shoot the baddies with.
They raided my house with.
And left with all your jewels and drugs and shit.
Everything.
Yeah. So anyway, 28th, next Wednesday. Hopefully tune in after 8 o'clock. We will hopefully be here. And we're getting close to the time, I think, when Rich is coming back too. He's been doing grey matter stuff. What's he been doing? He's studying for his PhD. So he may come back as Dr. Rich. We don't know. Will he have a doctorate or not?
Dr. Dick? Can we do that?
We can. We will do that. Whether he is one or not. It's podcast time with Dr. Dick.
And we need the name tag to come up like underneath it. Like every time and no one else, just him when it speaks, just Dr. Dick.
Dear. Hilarious. All right. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it, mate. It was good. We covered some subjects, that's for damn sure. Hopefully get your company. It, of course, will be on YouTube when we finish this. We don't even number the episodes anymore because I'm so lost about where we're actually at. We'll just continue to do the podcast. An atheist, a believer, and a pastor walk into a bar. Hopefully, I do have a special guest that I'm trying to organise to come on. Do you know we still haven't had a woman on this podcast in over a year? There's your stereotype. Hey?
Yeah. Got to change that.
I know. So if you're a woman out there and you want to be a part of the podcast, you are welcome to contact us. We didn't have old mate from California. We interviewed in his car. I've forgotten his name. He, like everyone else, thought that we'd obviously finished and disappeared. We had the audience build up and they sort of disappeared, which is understandable. We get it. So thank you so much for your company. Catch you again next week, the 28th from 8 o'clock Australian Western Standard Time. Appreciate you listening in. Have yourself a good week, what's left of it, and we'll catch you then. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it, mate. Take it easy.
See you next week.
See you, man.
See you, mate.
It's coming. I'm hitting the button. Nothing.